This is Larry Kane on tour with the Beatles, reporting from the San Francisco International Airport.
Paul, what do you, on your tour, do you find it hard to go 30 days and 30 nights like this?
Well, this is the first time we've tried it, and we haven't done it yet, so...
I know I met you down in Miami in February, I don't know if you remember, and I'll be on your plane.
Sure.
I'll be on your plane with you for the entire tour. Larry Kane from WFUN, and I want to welcome you to the United States.
Thanks very much.
The disc jockeys especially appreciate the help that you've given American radio.
Thanks.
Well, you boosted it.
appreciate that.
You know, you brought a new, let's say, wave of music in, and thank you.
Thank you, because you've given us a lot of help, too. Thanks.
And we'll be seeing you on the plane.
Yeah, okay, see.
John? Yeah, well, what's that? You say hello to everybody in Miami?
Hello, everybody in Miami.
Are they greeting? No, nothing like that. Tell me, when you go yachting, where do you plan to go in Florida?
Who's that we're going yachting?
I'm traveling with the Beatles party.
We're talking about yachting.
Said yachting.
Yachting?
Yachting.
We're not going yachting.
You're not going yachting? Who's working on this tour? Who's working on this tour? No particular outside
We got a
interest?
couple of days off, which will probably rest in some hideaway. There was no answer for the bit now.
I don't know if you want to talk about this. There's an article in a national magazine about
Which one?
The one where you said about in a year I'll have my money or something like that.
Oh, no,
I guess you've been asked a lot about that.
No, I haven't actually, because we haven't had a chance, we haven't had many compliments. But that was just something the fella Al, which I know quite well, wrote in the Saturday Evening Post. But he wrote that bit, but he didn't write the bit before, which meant that I didn't mean I'd have my money and get out, literally out of the business. I meant I'd have my money and do everything from a different level.
Many people in Miami have written that your wife, they want to know when your wife's having her next baby. Many of our listeners.
Oh, well, you see, that's another silly... They seem to have no sort of libel laws over here. See, the magazines write anything. One magazine called Truth, I won't name the name of it, it's called Truth, T-R-U-T-H, wrote a big pack of lies about how my wife broke the news to me about my baby, and how she cried, and I went off, and Ringo said, Johnny must share your wife. It was a pack of lies, and some American fans sent it over to me, so I'm thankful for it, thank you. And it's a lie, she's not having a baby.
I imagine this is the sort of...
I don't name any names, like Truth, T-R-U-T-H, pack of lies.
John, we'll see you on the plane, thank you.
Thank you, good night, and God bless you. Hi, Jim.
Prior to your show, do you still get that feeling of excitement when you see the crowd?
Yeah.
The airports and...
Yeah, we still do, yeah.
what did you think about these jelly beans yesterday? Do you consider
Too
that...
hard, man. Yeah, Any of you fellas get any?
Did you get... Yeah, I had some
good
sitting
feeling.
downstage.
Yeah.
Did you get more at the Galtanis than ever before?
No, it used to be a lot worse in England. We used to get millions, I mean, the Cow Palace is so big that people at the back haven't got a chance, of reaching the stage with it. But they're too hard, You wouldn't mind, don't throw them jelly beans, please. Give them in or something if we must have them, but don't throw them.
Do you think that's a feeling of affection?
I don't know. I feel it.
Would you rather marshmallows?
No, I don't want anything, Streamers are marvellous. We played Australia and they used to throw streamers and it was a knockout, because it's just like a big carnival, all streamers and balloons and that, and they don't hurt.
You had the worst of it, the Cow Palace, because of all of the people standing behind you, and they were hitting you in the back.
As well, so I don't stand any chance.
I thought that you had made kind of a standard rule for yourself, especially after the Washington performance the first time around, that you would never play when there is a certain portion of the audience that is behind you. Was that right?
No, I didn't make any rule. I've never heard of it. It's another new thing.
Another rumor.
Hello, boys.
Yeah, that rumor.
Paul McCartney just joined us.
We wouldn't play anyway if the people were behind us. We didn't stipulate anything like that.
Would you urge Would you urge the rest of the people in the other places you're going to be across the United States to throw streamers?
Streamers are great. Yeah, I love.
You want streamers? You'll love streamers.
I love them streamers, boy. Because it's such a they don't hurt half as much as jelly beans. Party, it's marvelous.
Don't put anything in the streamer to weight it down.
No, please.
What about this comment that I heard about from you, Paul, concerning racial integration at the various performances?
We don't like it if there's any segregation or anything, because we're not used to it, We've never played to segregated audiences before, and it just seems mad to me. It may seem right to some people, but to us it just seems a bit daft.
Well, you're going to play Jacksonville, Florida. Do you anticipate any kind of difference of that opinion?
I don't know, really, because I don't know what people in America are like, but I think it'd be a bit silly to segregate people, because, I don't think colored people are any different, they're just the same as anyone else. But, over here, there are some people who think that they're sort of animals or something, but I just think it's stupid, You can't treat other human beings like animals. And so, I wouldn't mind them sitting next to me. Great, because some of our best friends are colored people. So,
the attitude, and I hope that...
that's
the way we all feel,
That's the way we all feel, and a lot of people in England feel that way, because there's never any segregation in concerts in England, and in fact, if there was, we probably wouldn't play them,
Sydney, Australia was the biggest crowd that you'd ever played to before, wasn't it?
Except for last night.
The Count Palace.
Yeah, it was about 12, 15,000, someone said.
Did it give you a different kind of feeling playing before 17,000 screaming
Well, because...
The bigger the better for me. I love it, when there's millions, and there's more happening, it's fantastic.
And anyway, the noise is all louder,
And the more the people in the audience get going, the more we get going,
Out of all the records you've made, what is your favorite?
I don't know, I think A Hard Day's nice at the moment. I like that record.
What about you, Paul?
I think the same, because it's nearly always our most recent record that's our favourite, What about, you're talking about our records?
Yes, that's right.
We've got lots of favourites.
What do you think about all these groups? I'm sure you're aware that the orchestration and the Boston Pops doing your records, this is quite an honor to you.
Yeah, and I think Cilla Black's a very good group. It's one of the
What about the Animals?
greatest groups. Yeah, they're very
Great
good.
record.
You like that?
Yeah.
They're nice fellas too,
I believe it's number 1 over here.
Yes, it is number 1, and they're going to start an American tour. It just came out today.
They're great on stage as well.
You know the Rolling Stones, too?
Yeah, we
very
know the Stones.
They're good
They're
friends. of
very
ours.
personal friends of yours. aren't
Yeah.
they?
Very good friends.
In fact, most of the groups are, I mean, people, we hear some ridiculous rumours over here, no doubt, as you know, but we hear rumours like the Beatles hate every other group on the face of the earth. Yeah, it's just not true, because all the English groups especially, because we know them, are all friends of ours, and I can't think of one group that we dislike,
Last evening at the Cow Palace, the show was stopped twice to kind of tone the crowd down and get them out of the act.
We hate that.
It's a bit of a drag, because...
I noticed that one time, right in the middle of one of your introductions to the song, the MC went out and stopped. Did that irritate
Well,
you
actually,
so
we've
much?
told him now, to cut that out.
Unless they, they go nuts and start ripping the place apart, which I don't think they will.
Were you happy with your picture, your first picture, you yourselves?
Yes, now.
It's better now, because...
Yes, well, we went to see it first, just about 10 of us, it was sort of dead, and we were sort of picking on each other, saying, or on ourselves mostly, saying, well, if I'd have done that, this way and that way, and if I'd have looked a bit more this way or that way, but when we went to see it with an audience, and they were laughing at all the jokes, we enjoyed it, and I was even laughing.
Yeah, it's much better with an audience,
So I like it.
Yeah.
Out of all your personal experiences and appearances, what was the highlight out of all your appearances at different cities? Can you name it?
It's very hard to answer.
Are there any
that because-
highlights?
Yeah, there's millions of highlights. I mean,
Too many, that's why you can't pick on one. I can't, anyway.
What's the one city that you're kind of anxious to get back to on this tour?
Well, last time we only went to New York, Miami, and Washington. So we got
I
the
fancy
20.
I fancy seeing New York again, because
New York.
and Miami's great, but we're not actually going to Miami. Washington is, in fact, they're all good in different ways, all the cities of America.
Are you really sleeping all day long when they tell us you are?
Well,
No,
we're up now, aren't we?
What time is it now? It's half
3, and we're up.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't go to bed till 4.
Well, you didn't have a chance to slip out last night, huh?
No, we didn't slip out anyway. We just sat in our room and laughed at each other.
What do you do, tell jokes when you're in there?
No, we just had hysterics
Just
last
one of
night
them
about
nights where you
something.
sort of, just one little thing starts one laughing, and then we all end up curling up.
You do a lot of reading in your spare time?
Sometimes, all depends how I feel, We have phases where we read like lunatics.
We read last tour that was in Australia. We just read every James Bond book out. All of us did. And we were just talking James Bond for the whole tour. Calling each other M. Band.
I imagine the tragedy of Ira Fleming was pretty
Yeah.
close to you, eh?
Yeah, it was a
It's bad
drama.
loss, actually.
Do you listen to records, too? when you're in-
Yeah, of course. Including Cilla Black's new record, It's For You. And it's not that I'm trying to plug
Cilla
it.
Black.
No, it's not that I'm trying to plug this song, but it is one of my favourite songs.
It is, actually.
Mind you, John and I wrote it. Which
Do
might
you and John ever have any disagreements?
Remember, folks, It's For You. Pardon?
Do you and John ever have any disagreements as to lyric and the musical score of the song?
Remember, folks, It's For You. Pardon? Disagreements. Not Not really, you know. Sometimes if we're writing a song, sort of sitting down and writing it together, then one of us may think of something which is a bit corny, and the other one will say, that is corny. Remember, folks, Cilla Black's It's For You. Great record. Not corny at all.
What's the send me a copy of that record, Bob?
Yeah, I'll send you a copy of that.
He needs the money.
Well, folks, favourite record at the moment. Your favourite record, my favourite record, Cilla Black's It's For You. I'm not trying to plug this record, you realise, don't you?
No.
Beatle people.
I wouldn't. I'd never try and plug.
Have you got a record to plug?
It's one of mine. No, I love so many, you know, I can't plug any.
I understand Pat
How about
Boone
plugging Cilla Black's It's For You? Hey, that's a good record, yeah.
I understand Pat Boone was in town last night to talk to you.
I
Did he see you
understand too.
personally?
We didn't see him. We
I think he's still here, actually.
gave a message to our press manager, Mr. Derek Taylor, who passed it on his good wishes. And
How do you feel about the fact that a former teenage idol in America now has his organization printing oil portraits of the Beatles?
It's a good idea, I think. You know, he's a good businessman, probably, isn't he? Sounds like a good idea to me. Actually, I'd never buy one. But
Why wouldn't you, Paul?
I don't know. I've never seen a good oil painting of us yet, you know.
Okay. The guitar you have, right? I should say the guitar you're playing has 12 strings. Now, before the song If I Fell, during the act, you changed guitars. What is the reason behind this?
Because it's got a different sound, you see. With the 12 strings, it's 2 sets of each. I mean, there's 2 lots of each string, you see. Only instead of it being tuned the same, they're in octaves, you see. So instead of getting this note, like you would on an old one, you get... So you get, and both together, so it gives you that noise, you see. It's a higher sound, and with it being electric, it's a good sound. And so the ones I've used, when I've used this on a record, I use it on stage as well, you see. That's why I'm always swapping around.
You like to do a lot of vocalizing, a lot of singing?
I don't mind, you know. I don't care, actually, as long as I'm on.
George, what's the worst question anybody's ever asked you at a press conference? Can you remember? Or one of the worst?
Well, I don't know if about worse, but the ones that make us cringe most are the ones like, what are you going to do when the bubble bursts? Every day we get that, you know. And so you get a bit fed up after about 3 weeks of every day people saying, what about when the bubble bursts?
And another thing, I notice I've heard your sister in America, she lives here, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's right.
I heard her on some programs around America. Has she ever been in show business before?
No.
None of the members of your family?
No, my dad used to play guitar when in the Merchant Navy, you know. Not just for his own amusement, but that's about all. Oh, and I had a brother who was in a choir once, but, you know, nothing really show businessy, you know.
I talked to John about this, Paul, and I wanted to know, before the Beatles ever came about, before the word Beatles, or before this career ever came about, what ambitions did you have as far as a career? Want to be a doctor, a lawyer?
Didn't want to be anything, you know, because all the time I was at school, I used to just get my guitar out at night. I used to neglect my work at school because of the guitar, and so that was the only thing I really wanted to do, was be able to play a guitar and, you know, go on stage, and as luck would have it, that's what I was able to do, and it paid off. Didn't have any other ambitions, not that I can recall anyway.
Out of all the English groups, I'm saying groups now that are current, and that came following the advent of the Beatles, the first time we learned about the Beatles, which are your favorite groups?
Well, the Animals, they're the most recent new group, but they're a great group because they have a good sound on stage. You know, they sound just as good as their record on stage. And, you know, they're good musically. I like those, and I like the Searchers because they've got good harmonies. And the Stones are good as well, you know. In fact, there's quite a lot of groups that all we like, you know.
Now, I'll ask you a question that I also asked Paul. You know, there are so many young ladies around the world who show great admiration for the Beatles, and many for you individually. If you had to pick a wife, let's say, or a girl that you want to be your wife, what would be the attributes that you want the most in a wife?
I don't know. I mean, you can't...
You can't tell till it comes along?
No, I couldn't, you know. I'll let you know, though.
No, I don't go for this gossip type of question, but...
I don't mind. It's just like, you know... you can't write down sort of say the 10 star qualities you want in a wife, and you may find the wife's different, entirely different to what you originally planned. That's the sort of thing that just happened. You'll just know.
There's a girl who wrote us a letter and said, do the Beatles ever get bothered by these very personal questions about their families? And she thought it was very bad for everybody to ask you these questions. And I myself, when I listened to some of the questions at the press conferences and around, I know if I were asked those questions, I wouldn't like them too much. How do you feel about all these personal questions?
We just had to sort of get used to being asked questions like that, because we sit there so that people can ask us questions, and so we'll answer any. But now it doesn't bother us. If they ask us something that we don't really want to answer, we just give them a soft answer. Something that something that just doesn't make it personal, if you know what I mean. If they ask something about your dad and you don't want to tell them, well, you just say, just make it into a joke.
We're backstage once again with John Lennon, Ringo Starr.
Ringo. Backstage about 6 hours now.
And Derek Taylor's with us here.
Oh, he's doing great.
Say a few words into this.
Yes, say something.
It's been very, very, very gratifying to see that the people in America are so warm and generous without seeking anything in return. All these presents and flowers that come in, and nobody wants anything in return except possibly an autograph or two. And I think the Beatles would agree with that, but not always have they met this sort of generosity. But America's been great.
Thank you, Derek. I'm sure everybody will be happy to hear that, especially all the fans who do send in things. Ringo,
you look at most of the presents, we get round to them sometime or other, and we open them all, and we're very grateful, and people must have been in a magazine or something, said, the magazine said I like science fiction books, and I'm reading myself to death.
You've been asked a lot of questions at a lot of press conferences.
Yeah.
What was the worst question you were ever asked?
The worst, I think when someone said to me, John, are you going to write another book? It's not that it's bad. I don't know, I suppose. I think personally that most people in the country, and especially press people, if they're sent on a job, they should at least lay on our names,
Well, that's a rule for every newsman, should know that.
Yeah, but, and to ask questions like that, and even now, after how long we've been here, 2 weeks, we've been on telly in most states and everything, and they still mix us up, which I can't understand at all. There's Neil Aspinall, our road manager's talking to me.
I just took a ride with Neil, and it was very unsuccessful.
Where did you go?
We went to look for some pictures.
Yeah, he's got hundreds of them. Where are the pictures? Oh, did you find the...
John, what about the worst question you were ever asked at a press conference?
Somebody asked me.
Yes.
Oh, hold on a second, I'll think of one.
One of the worst questions you get asked is, it hadn't happened so much this time, but the first time we got here, people kept saying, John, do people make fun of you because you're blind or you're nearly blind? Which is a lot of rubbish, I'm just short-sighted, so I wear glasses, but I wear them dark, you see. But the thing is, when any of us refer to short-sightedness, we call it blind. Anybody who wears glasses to us is blind. By the time we got over to the States, it was all around that I was going blind, so people kept saying, what's it like, what did the others say? It was awful, a horrible question. Didn't like it at all, Larry.
The thing is, we were only funning, we sort of shout at each other, we'll... messing about, we argue like mad, we shout at each other, and sort of telling each other off, but it's only in fun, and we'll say, oh, go away, you blind thing, and they'll say, they'll call me, Snozzle or Big Nose or something, and, we've got names for each other, and then it gets interpreted all different, once in black and white, it looks so much worse than the way we say, the fun bit of it doesn't come out.
Let's get into another maybe controversial question. When you look at, let's say, young ladies today, everybody says they're trying to get too old too fast. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think from girls from, say, 13 to 15 want to look 18 to 20, and then once past that they're trying to look 13 again, but I think it's silly for a girl to try and look older than what she is, and for an older girl, it's much better if she tries to make herself attractive than look younger,
What we're talking about, John.
Yes. I met a man who went to Glasgow with a bad egg. And, nobody had sit with him on the train.
It's so deep, this lad.
That's not deep, Ringo.
He's so shallow, this lad.
Thank you.
Just thought I'd tell you, man with a bad egg. He likes to tell people things, does John.
Well, we were just talking about, John, you're married, and maybe someday you'll have a young lady for a daughter. We're talking about whether girls try to get too old too fast, if you know what I mean. What do you think about this?
Well, in America, definitely, not girls, just, the ones I've met are probably less than the others. But people in general, kids in general, in America, are brought up to be it. 10-year-olds look about 16. That's exaggerating, say 14. 14-year-olds look about 18. And that's sort of, they sort of bring them up too fast, even though they're not, educationally, they haven't had half the education the most Europeans have had. But they look older, and they act older.
I was speaking with Chris Hutchins the other day, and we had a little argument about Americans and Britons and their feelings about analyzing things. I asked him, for example, Chris, what do you think, how could you analyze the Beatles' success? And he said, well, Americans try to analyze things too much, and they try to categorize them. Do you ever do this, or just natural thoughts come out of you?
The thing is, sort of English people, or the people I've met around Europe, do analyze things, but they don't say it the same way. An American go into some sort of deep kind of, what do you think is basically, psychologically, the whole business of this Beatlemania, whereas somebody in England will just come up and say, how did you make it? The same thing goes on with everywhere we've been, but they'll just say it different. Americans take 10 minutes to ask you what do we think of Beatlemania or how it happened. An English fellow will take about 4 minutes.
Well, another thing, Ringo especially, you read fan magazines, and you see, I'm not a disc jockey. I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm news director at the station.
We're not aware of this. Get out of the room!
And
DJs, they play the records. Well, he can write about it.
And I'm a newsman, and you look at the world today and see this so-called Cold War and everything else. What are your thoughts about a war and possible military service, if it ever came?
I hate the thought, of war anyway, and I always think to myself, well, if there, ever is another war, but you can't, I don't know, the next war I always imagine that they'll be throwing them dirty bombs at each other, the atom bombs, and, so if you win, there's no one can win anyway. Even if you've got a bit of ground left, you've got all that, contamination in the air and everything.
You think your music takes away, maybe makes people a little more lighthearted and takes away from all this Cold War fear? Because it's in most people, the fact that, well, it can happen any day,
I'm sure the Americans are more conscious of the next war than the Britons are, probably because they got more power or something, or they got more fallout shelters. But the next, I can't visualize the next war. That's me, John told me. I'm just agreeing. I'm just agreeing. The thing is, you just hear about the last war and you think, yeah, okay, they went around battering hell out of each other with a couple of bricks and bombs, but nothing, it happened, but everybody was left. So many things were left standing, but the next war was sort of the end. I can't really visualize anybody going that potty and doing anything,
No.
Only another like Hitler would press a button, and the first one, I just think it's stupid war anyway, but to think that anyone would sort of even say, why does, we say Russian and America sort of against each other, I suppose they are, but, they're quite friendly nowadays, aren't they? But if anyone ever thinks of a war, well, I do personally, I always think, well, it'll be Russia and, or, the communists against the Americans. That's the way I always feel the next war will be.
Yeah, that's right. You don't even feel as though it's communists against English, do you? You feel as though it's communists against Americans.
That's it.
We're just turning into a holiday resort, you see.
No, sure, well, keep talking.
Okay, fine.
We got another 5 minutes.
Okay, fine.
Well, 9 o'clock, give me a shout. It takes me 7 minutes to get ready. I'll time myself.
Me too.
You ever have any, this is another controversial question, is any internal problems within the Beatles, let's say, the 4 guys? You're bound to have differences. But any serious internal problems ever upset you?
We get plenty.
It's a tough question to ask.
It isn't tough because, You know, we can answer it because we have plenty of arguments. But we're also sort of attuned to each other, and we know each other so well through the years that an argument never reaches a climax, or it never reaches the point where somebody goes up and says, I'm talking, you know.
In other words, it's forgotten.
It's not forgotten, but we know each other so well. It's like sort of mind reading. If an argument's building up between Ringo and I, say, there comes to a point where we know what's going to come next, and it's all, everybody packs in, or something, okay, he wins. You know, so we have ordinary arguments like other people, but we don't, there's no sort of conflict. All the people who have conflict in show business either get married about 19 times, they leave the group they're in and go solo, you know, and nothing ever happens.
In the group, you know, don't they? So I think that's why they leave, you know. In America you get sort of, there's a group and there's always one singer, and then he sort of gets sort of big-headed and leaves, but I personally would hate to leave the other three, you know. If it did happen, say I left and went on stage, I just wouldn't know what to do. You know, on my own, I'd be looking around. And the thing about that, when I was in hospital and the boys went to Sweden and then to Australia, I followed them out to Australia, and there was sort of people, you know, at the airports, not like I used to get off the plane, but I was on my own, and I don't know, just automatically looked around for the other boys. You know, you just. I don't know, I couldn't stand it on my own.
One gets reliant, Ringo, that's the thing.
Pardon?
One gets reliant on the other.
Yes.
You're about to go on stage, and there is one thing I want to ask, because I'd like to get this in. We're out in Hollywood. We're out in Hollywood, and you stayed out in a house out there, and you met so-called, some of them, Hollywood starlets and actors and producers and directors. Now, to me, this is the first time I've ever been around a crowd of a lot of movie stars, let's say. And to me, there was a basic difference between you, and I'm not trying to analyze, and them. You were natural, and they were not. Especially some of these young actors and actresses who claim to be stars, you know. What do you think about, do you think this world out in Hollywood is phony?
No more phony than most of the sort of acting or film world is. All the actors and film actresses that are genuine, people know they're genuine, you know, they come across, they're the ones that are natural on screen, everybody knows, you know, but there's so many of them that aren't natural, and that's just the way of it, you know, but we get used to meeting them. We know they're not natural, we know that maybe they're trying to be natural, but they just don't work, you know, they're just sort of phonies. Aren't they, really?
Yeah. We met, I think, I didn't meet too many sort of stars of that in Hollywood, but I think the nicest fellow I did meet was Burt Lancaster, you know. He's a great, and he's so genuine, you know, and he's with his family and his wife, and we went round to see a movie.
I think it's even something like he's saying now, like Burt Lancaster's genuine, sounds like a sort of show business sort of actors or film stars cliche, but it isn't. Because the people we meet and we don't think are genuine, we either don't meet, or we don't mention on tape or interview, or we tell them that we're lousy.
Yeah, but we can't sort of on tape mention all them phonies we've met, you know, which none of us like, you know, so we only, the trouble with us, we only...
one great, well-known film actress we met, wasn't it?
Yes, she went to the club too, folks. You've read about it. I don't know.
No, they read about the wrong one, but there was one of them who didn't seem to get a mention, although she tried so hard, you see.
Which caused all the trouble, actually, because she was flashing around and wanting photos and that, you know, for publicity and that, which is silly.
But somehow it didn't work. Due to George's astute business brain,
of the
he stood up with a mighty blow and swept him from the room.
Which any normal fellow would do, you know, but just because George did it and he's in the Beatles, it gets all this publicity. But if you go to a club and there's this little photographer with a big camera, and no one sort of says, well, can I take one, or, you know, is it all right, or they just sort of run up and put the flash about 4 inches from your eyes and then flash this dirty big light, and it blinds you, which annoys you, you know.
Especially when you want to get away and enjoy yourself for a couple hours.
It's not much that. Anywhere we go, you know, anywhere we go, we're going to get people coming up with their flashes 4 inches from you. You take it once, twice, maybe 3 times, and then you say, okay, whatever your name is,
you know,
have you done it? You've got enough pictures. You know, we're not going to do anything else. We're just sitting here. You've got all the pictures you need. And you go away, which is what happened in that club in Hollywood. Said, go away. And he said, okay. So he goes, but he comes back again. So, you know, it's embarrassing for us to ask people to go away, because they say, oh, they're big-headed. You know, how dare they ask her somebody to go away. So the manager of the club comes up and says, is he bothered? And we say, yeah, well, you just move him, tell him to drop his camera, come over and join the table, anything, but just stop flashing.
Both of you, thank you very much.
Thank you for keeping us occupied all this time.
Thank you, Ringo.
You know, it's nice to talk when you're just sitting around. We'd only be sitting doing nothing. So thanks a lot. And give our regards to all the people in Miami.
Well, I only do press officer on the tours. Really, I'm Brian Epstein's assistant, but I do press officer on the tours because they haven't got a regular man.
During your experiences, you know, we read so much about the Beatles here in America and what they've done and their highlights of their career. What would you say would be the most unusual experience so far?
I think the most unusual experience, it depends what you mean by unusual, but the most extraordinary experience they ever had was in Adelaide in South Australia when they found 500,000 people, all ages and all classes, lining the highway for 7 miles from the airport into the city centre. To find this sort of thing 13,000 miles from home, and if you can imagine 500,000 people, it was almost, is the word traumatic. And I think secondly, and more important to them, when they returned to Liverpool, which is a dour and it's a city which sits back and takes stock of things, to see 150,000 people there welcoming them back as almost like de Gaulle re-entering Paris.
One thing I wanted to ask you, when you see the American crowds and their reaction, is there any basic difference between the young men and women of America and their feelings toward the Beatles and the British?
No, they always look very much healthier than anywhere else in the world.
The Americans?
Oh, yes, and they always seem to be much older than they are, but they vary very little. They're extremely benevolent and generous, as fans are. And this reception yesterday was, without being pompous, well up to standard.
During your tenure with the Beatles, has there been any incident or instance where I read recently about, you mentioned in a National Magazine article about crippled people asking for their help. Has this been widespread, or have you received many letters on this?
We do get the impression that there is a belief that being near a Beatle or being touched by a Beatle, this is a minority, is going to do them good in some way. Either they're going to feel better within themselves, or they are actually going to be able to walk if they can't walk.
Do the Beatles answer all their fan mail?
No, they don't. They couldn't possibly. They read a great deal of it. They particularly read it on tour or when they're on planes. They're interested in it because their view is that people are interested enough to write, then they should read as much as they possibly can. But they can't read it all because there are tens of thousands a week.
I know you see all these gifts here and this giant postcard and the big Beatle out there. What do they do with these things? Do they keep them?
The things that are not perishable, the big teddy bears and these, a lot of them they do keep, but what they don't keep they give to children's homes and that sort of thing. But if they kept it all, they'd need a warehouse.
Is there any apprehension on the part of the Beatles about this grinding schedule for the upcoming tour?
No, they just shrug their shoulders as they do about practically everything else in life. They live life with a great big shrug, and which keeps them fairly normal.
Derek Taylor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Paul McCartney speaking, and this record, you've really got to buy this record. Fantastic. I'm not trying to plug it, mind you, but here we go with Cilla Black's great rendition of It's For You. Spin it.